Presentation? Okay, thanks. So, as Dr. Madanjit already said, that fetal growth restriction remains major cause of perinatal mortality and morbidity worldwide, and late onset FGR constitutes about 70% of FGRs. So, Dr. Gitanjali has already beautifully presented the concept of FGR, why it happens, how the progression happens, what are the causes, what else to look for. So, it makes my talk much easier. And I'm going to start it in a case based manner so that everybody can be involved and understand how to manage a patient with late onset FGR. Main thing is the diagnosis in late onset FGR, because sometimes you may miss that this is a late onset FGR fetus, and that is where we actually lose the opportunity to intervene. So, challenges faced in FGR, we know that in early onset, when to deliver, risk of stillbirth, cerebral palsy, timing of steroids. But late onset FGR, as I said, it is the diagnosis which is the main challenge, and then to decide the further management. And late onset FGR is not always predictable, and hence monitoring in the third trimester is important to pick up these fetuses. So let's look at this case. This patient, she is primigravida. She is visiting us at 32 weeks. Her antenatal period is otherwise unremarkable, but she has missed first trimester screening. We always look at the gestational age. We compare with the previous scans that she is correctly dated. Whenever the patient comes to you first time, make sure that you have looked at the dating of pregnancy, that you are looking at the correct gestational age according to the early pregnancy scan. And then when we look at the growth, if you look at the centile, this is on 85th centile. You look at the umbilical artery Doppler, PI is 0.88, well within the normal range. So, are you going to recommend any further assessment to this patient? She is primary, low risk, 32 weeks. Her GTT is normal, growth at 85th centile, Doppler AFI normal. Are you going to follow up this patient, recommend any further growth scan or not? Any further growth scan should you recommend? You have seen her at 32. When? After 4 weeks. Do you really recommend all your patients at 32 that come back at 36 for a scan? Yes. How many? In a normal low risk patient with a normal growth. After 2 weeks, after 4 weeks, or not, no recommendation, no follow-up required. Can anybody say no follow-up required? A growth scan with color Doppler. Okay. And what is the justification for that? We should have a justification. Patients will ask for a justification. I have a normal scan at 32 weeks. Why are you recommending me another scan? Late onset FGR. So this is the study which highlights that the predictive performance for a small for gestational age fetus is better if you carry out the scan at 35 to 36 plus 6 instead of 31 to 33 plus 6. And if you look at the estimated fetal weight instead of only abdominal circumference, so then you have a better chance of picking a small for gestational age fetus. And this patient was indeed, as a protocol at our unit, she was advised repeat scan at 37 weeks. And when she came at 37 weeks, we saw the growth dropped from 85th centile to 32 centile. And there was a high resistance in umbilical artery PI, as seen here, it is more than the 95th centile now. Does she fit into the definition of FGR or not? Sorry? So this was already discussed by Dr. Gitanjali. And if you see, if you have at least 2 out of these criteria, you have a crossing of centiles of more than 2 quartiles, you can say 50 centiles. And if your umbilical artery PI is more than 95th, either of these, if these 2 criteria are fitting, so this patient can be labeled as late onset FGR. What will be the further management? But if MCA is normal or not normal, but umbilical is already high, then what is the question of CPR? CPR comes into value only when your umbilical is normal. Otherwise, you already have a high umbilical, then you don't need to look at the CPR. Okay? And you need a guideline. You need to tell the patient what is your rationale for the decision behind saying that I want to deliver you now. Okay. I think this is already covered that 32 weeks is the criteria for late or early onset. And what we did, we called this patient again next day because the Doppler are volatile. You need to always repeat the Doppler at 4-hour interval. You cannot always just jump on one reading. You need to follow up the patient at least at an interval of 4 hours. Doppler are always volatile, especially the MCA. If you see a very low diastolic flow in MCA, you measure it a couple of times, you will get a normal MCA as well. So Doppler is not just a one-time reading. You have to follow up the patient at an interval of 4 to 6 hours. And when we followed up the patient, it was an absent end diastolic flow. Okay, and DVPI had also gone up, and hence, yes, the patient was delivered. So let me just go to this slide, which is FIGO practice advice for screening, diagnosis, and management of FGR. And if you see, there are some absolute delivery indications independent of gestational age. And these are maternal status, for example, severe preeclampsia. If you have repetitive FHR deceleration, sinusoidal trace, absent FHR variability with late decelerations, you have a computerized CTG with STV below 2.6 milliseconds. But if you don't have these things, then you need to individualize the management based on the gestational age and the Doppler findings. And if you see from 26 to 30 weeks, the criteria to deliver is absent or reversed DV, or you have a computerized CTG which is abnormal, or biophysical score very abnormal. But biophysical score, we are not really depending upon this because we have the Doppler in hand. So this is for the settings. FIGO takes into account areas where they don't have Doppler. So they include biophysical score also. And from 30 to 32 weeks, it is the reverse umbilical artery and diastolic flow. And 32 weeks onwards, it is the absent umbilical artery and diastolic flow. And 37 week onwards, even if the umbilical artery PI is raised and you have a small baby, then you have the reason to deliver this baby, right? So accordingly, now the case that we were discussing, it was a late onset fetal growth restriction with high umbilical artery PI, more than 37 weeks. We have a indication to deliver the baby. Coming to second case here, she is 27 weeks and 30 years, corrected dates by the CRL. And she is already hypertensive on multiple antihypertensives, labetalol and tepin. And her PET bloods were normal, urine albumin is trace. And when we look at the Doppler findings, growth on the 69th centile, a normal AFI, umbilical PI on the 95th centile, DV normal, CTG reactive. She was counseled for delivery and sent for a second opinion. Should we deliver? We should wait, sorry? Doppler. And when she needs the next Doppler? Umbilical PI on the 95th centile, and she is hypertensive on 2 medications. So we will call her for Doppler after 1 week, but growth is always after 2 weeks. We do growth scan after 2 weeks, but Doppler weekly. Right, so because she is 27 weeks, the criteria to deliver would have been only absent or reversed DV. If you don't have this criteria fitting, then you will call her for a follow-up. Yes, so she needs monitoring. Exactly, that needs to be counseled, but so far her PET bloods were normal and her urine albumin was trace. So maternal monitoring, that is her blood pressure monitoring and PET bloods. Blood pressure monitoring will be daily basis and her PET bloods will be repeated every week and Doppler will be repeated on a weekly basis because umbilical PI is high, but it is a positive end diastolic flow, not an absent end diastolic flow. Okay? And why we don't want to do her, why we don't want to deliver her at 27 weeks? Because between 24 to 28 weeks, each day in utero, it will reduce the neonatal morbidity by 2%. Each and every day is important. And less than 26 weeks, we have the challenge of intact survival. The intact survival is less than 50%. And beyond 28 weeks, 28 to 30, there is 0.7% daily increment in survival. And more than 30 weeks, we know we have 90% neonatal survival. So all these things we have to keep in mind. And major neonatal complications at 30 weeks, they are 35%. And if you cross 34 weeks and beyond, then they are less than 10%. And if you deliver less than 30 weeks, there is a 3-fold risk of neurodevelopmental delay and 8 times higher risk of cerebral palsy. So all these things have to be kept in mind before we take a decision for preterm delivery. The timing, the gestational age is extremely important. So she was advised follow up with weekly Doppler and growth every 2 weeks, PET workup and monitoring of fetal movements. And if you look at her growth trajectory, after we saw her 27 and then 2 weeks later, there's hardly any growth in this fetus. Although at 27 weeks, she was on the 69th centile. Role of split-1 PLGF ratio here? Anybody using split-1 PLGF ratio? Anything that it gives you any idea about further what is going to happen in the next few weeks? So let's see the what does the literature say about PLGF and split-1 PLGF ratio. So there are tests based only on the PLGF that you can use as a cutoff. That is, if you have a very low PLGF, less than 12 picogram per ml, then it is highly abnormal and it suggests severe placental dysfunction and increased risk for preterm delivery. Whereas if it is more than equal to 100, then it is unlikely to progress to delivery within 14 days of the test. That gives you some idea if the patient is coming from a very far off region, if the patient cannot come to you very frequently, then these tests can be useful. And coming to split-1 PLGF ratio, they have a role in the diagnosis of preeclampsia and prediction of preeclampsia, the late preeclampsia. Here, I agree, the woman is already preeclamptic, but when you are like having a blood pressure of say 130/90, your bloods are normal and you're not sure whether to send this patient home or not or to admit her, then these ratios can be extremely useful. And you have a rule out cutoff criteria that is if you have 33 or less, that means you're ruling out preeclampsia. And if you have 85 or more, that means you rule in. That is definitely this woman is preeclamptic. This is before 34 weeks. After 34, you have the criteria of 33 and 110. Okay, and for the prediction, you have the cutoff of 38. Less than 38, it rules out preeclampsia within a week. And more than 38, it rules in that she is going to set up in preeclampsia within the next 3 to 4 weeks. So a split-1 PLGF ratio of 38 or lower, this can predict the women who are going to have a low risk. Within a week, they are not going to develop any serious complication. So if you don't want to admit and send her home, call her back in a week. The woman with below 38, she can be allowed to go back if the patient is not ready for admission.
Dr. Rachna, sorry to interrupt you, but what is the specificity of this test, the SLG ratio, PLGF ratio?
So this is the negative predictive value is 88% and positive predictive value is 64%. These are the predictive values.
Okay, even if we are not doing this, a low PAPE, which we usually get it done in early first trimester, can have a
first trimester screening is good for prediction of early onset preeclampsia and FGR. But for late onset, it is not as good. That is why we need a third trimester screening. And there is the role of growth scans at 32 and 36 weeks and split-1 PLGF ratio after 29 weeks. So these help you in predicting the late onset preeclampsia and late onset fetal growth restriction cases. And Fetal Medicine Foundation, the website, it gives you a very methodical way when to advise these tests and how to interpret and what to do after a particular value. So this patient, as I said, she was followed up weekly for AFI and Doppler, which kept on reducing the AFI, and the umbilical PI kept on increasing. And at 30 weeks, 4 days, we have an absent end diastolic flow. Will you give steroids at this point? Are you going to deliver her? DV is normal. When is the steroids most effective? And if she is not in a position to be delivered beyond a week, will you repeat the steroids? Suppose, just 2 minutes. Suppose this woman remains stable, you have still after a week absent end diastolic flow. You will call her now twice weekly because this is absent end diastolic flow. Now after 1 week still the same condition and you are not going to deliver her. Then are the steroids going to be useful? And suppose she had already been given steroids at 27 weeks. Okay, so just this is Cochrane review. It says maximum benefit of steroids is after 24 hours of completing the course and if you deliver within 7 days of completed course. Repeated use of corticosteroids is linked to autism, neurodevelopment delay, permanent changes in limbic system, midbrain, white matter paucity, cerebral palsy, reduced head circumference, FGR, glucose intolerance. All these side effects have been documented with repeated use of corticosteroids. So rescue dose is still very controversial. You have to individualize. If it has been like, you are definitely sure you are going to deliver after 24 hours, then maybe you give. But even if you are not sure, then there is no point giving her repeated steroids every 1 week or 2 weeks. It doesn't help.
But if we ask the neonatologist, then they said that the steroids should be given and the delivery should be planned after 48 hours. So that
Yes,
is
so
another thing.
you complete the
if you have only
steroids.
for 24 hours, then also the role of corticosteroid is controversial.
So you're not audible, ma'am.
Yeah, so I'm saying that if you have to deliver, suppose in next 24 hours, and if we give a steroid, that is also like is not going to be protective
Not going to be useful.
for the baby, right?
Right.
So the neonatologist always says that you should plan the steroid and plan delivery after 48 hours.
After the first dose.
Yeah. So what we recommend is that every department or the hospital should have their departmental policy
Exactly.
in conjunction with the neonatology team. And then
Completely
they
agree.
decide that at what decision you need to give the steroid. And if in case you are not planning to deliver in next 3 to 4 weeks, then whenever you plan for delivery, you ask the neonatology team whether we should give a repeat dose of steroid
Exactly.
or not in view of the
Completely
side
agree.
effects.
Yes, that is very important that you have your policies in place. We don't do it like, just we feel like. You have your protocol in place. That this is how we are going to proceed according to your neonatology team. You have your protocols made. So we followed this patient again with biweekly Doppler, and 31 plus 4 we had the reversed end diastolic flow, which is now a criteria to deliver at 31 plus 4. And then we gave her steroids and delivered her, and baby was in NICU for 1 week but doing well after delivery. Right, so I think I'll stop here. Was the placenta sent for histopathy? I'm not sure. This is an old case. Yeah, it should be sent. It should be sent. Okay, so fine. I mean, I think if there are any questions, I'm not reading the list. We have discussed each and everything. Thank you very much.